Hey, welcome back on my way home from work, which very quickly brings us to our topic today. Should I quit my job? And let's just be really clear, I'm not talking about me specifically, but lots and lots of people are quitting their jobs right now. So they're calling it the Great Resignation, and that makes me feel so old because I remember learning about the Great Depression in my history books and reading about it. And I felt like, oh my gosh, that's such a long time ago. But now I know that my kids are going to grow up, and in their history books, it's going to be the Great Resignation. And they're going to think, wow, my mom lived through that. Thumbs up if you feel old right now, just like me. Anyway, they're calling it the Great Resignation, where so many people are realizing that they have other priorities in their lives and they are quitting their jobs in favor of better opportunities that give them more freedom of lifestyle. Everywhere you look, the news is reporting that people are in need of labor. If you look on the signs of the restaurants when you go down the street, you'll probably see a few help wanted signs or people that are giving hiring bonuses for line jobs that normally wouldn't have that type of thing. Employment is in high demand, while at the same time, interestingly, unemployment is at pre-pandemic levels. So where are all these people going? I can only assume, I have not done a lot of research on this, but that people are making their own employment right now. They are getting into their small businesses. They are starting up their hobbies to make profits or doing 3 or 4 small side hustles that gives them more freedom of schedule and freedom of time rather than a corporate W-2 job where they are required to be at a certain place or online at a certain time. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on right now. And then you might think, hey, this might be a good time to ditch my W-2 job. If employment is in such high demand, maybe people are willing to pay a little bit more for what I do. And it may be true, but I think there's some key questions before we jump into asking, should I quit my job? There are some key things you need to consider. And that's what this video is all about. So if that's something that you've been considering lately, maybe stay tuned to the end of the video and see if these steps can help you decide. Because as an indecisive person, I know I need all the help I can get in making a decision. So this process is really helpful to me when I am trying to make a big decision. So there are a couple things you probably need to ask yourself specific to whether you should quit your job and or transfer jobs. And the first one and the most important one is, what is most important to me? What could you not live without? If someone offered you $1 million today, what would you do if you didn't have to work, right? What would you do if you didn't have to work the rest of your life? That's one way to find out what's important to you. So I kind of go through this process on a regular basis just because I like to self-evaluate. And I found that there are really 3 things that are important to me when it comes to my job. It is, the lifestyle I live and the money I make and doing whether the job duties are things that I enjoy doing. Those are the 3 pillars of what it takes for me to be happy in a job. And I have to note especially that at certain points in my life, those pillars have different weights to them, right? So very early in my life, I was all about, making money. I got married young, we had kids young, and I was not in a corporate job at the time. So making money was my first priority so that we could live. I was in survival mode and our family was in survival mode, and that's okay if that's where you are and you have to take a job just based on the amount of money you're going to be making. Sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes the money doesn't matter to you. And you can make your decisions based solely on lifestyle, the lifestyle that you want to live. If you really, really like to bake cakes and you get a job as a professional baker somewhere that doesn't pay a lot, but you get to bake cakes that you love every single day, then that's the job for you, right? You're so happy and you don't have to deal with all of the self-employment things that other bakers have to deal with. Somebody else does that for you. And then there's times where doing what you like to do at your job is the most important thing. So it may not be, sometimes that, let me just put it this way. If I was offered $10,000 more to do something I really hated, I wouldn't do that. It's important to me that I like what I'm doing. Otherwise, it's not sustainable for me because I'll become bored with it really quick. I'll become frustrated really quick, and I'll very quickly slide into a life that I really don't like. And I think when you are happy at your job, you are kind of happier overall. It just spills out onto the rest of your life, and you're able to function better overall. So those are some key questions to ask yourself. What is most important to you? And it may be completely different from what's important to me. It's a very personal thing. And if you are thinking about switching jobs, know that the job that you get, do enough research to make sure that it has those things that are most important to you. Because it's easy to get caught up in excitement. It's easy to get caught up in one of those things when really all three of them are important to me. So just make sure that any opportunity that you are looking into has everything that you're looking for. Otherwise, I don't think it's worth the switch unless you really are unhappy where you're at. Other things to ask yourself, are other people depending on me? If you have a spouse, if you have children that are depending on you, you may not want to make this decision unilaterally because it can cause tensions really quick if you're just making a one-sided decision, especially if you're in a partnership and you guys are working together. My husband and I, we talk to each other about these kinds of things because, one, I need his help making decisions, and he and I have very different ways of looking at things. So he always comes up with a side of things that I've never seen before. And I think that's brilliant because it works well. It complements each other. And two, because we depend on each other. We depend on each other's schedules. We depend on each other's income. We depend on each other's support in our careers. So when somebody's really going for it, the other person may have to take a step back. And you have to make those decisions together, because if you're making those decisions alone and just dragging somebody else along for the ride, I think it can cause a little bit of tension in relationships. What will you be doing instead? So if you're quitting your job, are you going to get another job? Are you planning to start your own business? If you are, how big is the barrier to entry in that business? Can you just start making and selling things? Because that's a pretty low barrier to entry. Or do you need some sort of equipment to get started, which will require some startup cash? Personally, we're working on a food truck business for my husband, and it requires quite a bit of startup cash because you have to have a food truck. And as I've said before, our incomes are not that great. They're not high, and we don't have a lot of cash saved up right now, so we would have to get a loan. There's just sometimes a whole lot of steps before you'll be even earning money from the thing that you're going to. So definitely take that into consideration. And sometimes you want to hang on to your job a little bit longer until you can get to a place where you're taking money from the new thing. Am I able to replace my income? Like I said, you might want to hang on to your job a little longer. Do you need to replace your income? If you're single and you're living your best life and you don't have anyone dependent on you, you don't have any pets, you don't have a spouse, you don't have any kids, and you live pretty rent-free, maybe you live with mom and dad still, that's fine. And you have little responsibilities, you're able to do a lot more quickly than somebody who does have those things, does have those responsibilities. If I was living at home with my mom and dad and I had no spouse and no kids, I could pretty much pick up and go wherever I wanted, right? I could move across the country if I wanted to. And because I have a family, I don't really have that ability to move as quickly. There would be logistics involved. We would have to plan a place to live. We would have to, plan all of that becomes harder the more people you have in your family. Lastly, is it more beneficial to leave than to stay? So if you're thinking about maybe transitioning jobs, now might be a good time to do that because your skill might be in high demand. The place where you're going might be in high demand. But like I said, if you're not considering all the factors, if you're just caught up in the fact that it's available and it's there, the opportunity is there, then maybe you're not thinking it all the way through, because it may not be more beneficial to leave than to stay. It may be that one of those pillars that are really important to you is missing. And if that's the case, definitely make sure you think things all the way through. So those are some questions to ask yourself if this is something, leaving your job is something you're thinking about right now. Also, there are a couple other things you can do. You can talk to someone you love or several people you love. I like to talk to a lot of people in my life when I make big decisions because they all have a different perspective. And I feel like between all of us, I can usually think it through well enough to come to a decision that is the best decision for me. And if you have loved ones or close friends that you like to talk to and have different perspectives on life, maybe run it by them. And see how they consider the situation, especially if you have some doubts or some hang-ups. It's always good to run those things by them because they can offer you different experiences, different perspectives than you can think of all on your own. You can make some pro-con lists. I am a big fan of lists, and especially pro-con lists. I like to see the best of each situation. I can see all sides usually because I'm such a big picture person. And when I see all sides, it's hard for me to decide which opportunity may be better. Is staying at a job where you have a plan or room for advancement better than going to another job which you might like better, which might have more flexibility, but has no room for advancement. So it really, think things through. That is the next one. Think things all the way through. Consider all sides and make sure that you have considered all sides before making your decision. Don't just jump in because, that can cause problems. Overthinking can also cause problems, and I tend to be more on that side of things rather than just jumping in. All right, so ultimately, you have to know that this is your decision. You may be getting opinions from other people, but this is your decision, and some people in your life may not agree with it. I'm not a big fan of burning bridges if you can leave a place amicably, but sometimes when you're in a toxic environment at work, you have to just leave, and there's nothing wrong with that, and I think that most people will agree there's not a lot wrong with that. Just realize that you are a person. You are human. You have opportunities, and you have a wonderful brain that helps you make decisions, a wonderful support system that helps you make decisions. And just because an opportunity is there doesn't mean it's always a good decision. That's sort of the route I always take. Oh man, I'm indecisive because there's an opportunity here and an opportunity here and an opportunity here. Well, which one do I take? And just because an opportunity comes up doesn't always mean that you should deviate from the plan that you had. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I know this was kind of a shaky video where I don't take one side or another, but leave me a comment down below if this was at all helpful. I just think that these kinds of things are very personal, and knowing what questions to ask yourself for someone who may be a little bit younger than me can be hard to think of. So I hope this was helpful to you. If it was, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you're struggling to decide to do if you're planning to leave your job, because I'd love to know where you're coming from, like what industry you're coming from. And yeah, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.